Boom. All right. So number one, welcome back. I'm excited to see you guys. I will tell you, I know for everybody who was able to make it up and join us on Saturday, it was awesome seeing you. I really enjoyed having the team together. I know at the September one, I wasn't there, which just FYI, I regret my decision to not be there because I coordinated with Kate. I begged Kate to let me not be there so that I could go play rugby. And that was where I got mortally wounded, which tells me that if I had just done my job, I wouldn't be hurt right now and I'd be playing rugby. But whatever. This week was a bye week. Our team didn't play on Saturday anyway, so I wouldn't have been playing. I should have just allowed my whatever, just a little salty at my damn self. But I wasn't there on Saturday, so I know last month there were a bunch of you guys there and I was not present. So for me personally, it was just awesome having the team back together, and especially for the summer crew. You know, you guys remember at the end of every event, we'd all huddle together and take our team selfie, and we didn't have Nick in those, but next time. But it was awesome doing that in the summer. We haven't had that for a while, so I really enjoyed, quite honestly, just seeing you and being physically around you guys again. And quite honestly, watching the crew, I genuinely felt like all of the candidates from all of the offices really presented themselves well. Like almost everyone was on time and dressed professionally and engaged. But you guys did a really nice job representing yourself. So I want to thank you for the work you put in and just let you know I thoroughly enjoyed spending that time with you over the weekend. And for those of you who weren't there, we're going to be sending out, specifically Kate will be sending out some of the recordings and some assignments. And it'll be very similar to the last one. And then next month we go to Olean, and it sounds like everybody's got their flights booked, and we have Madison's going to be driving for God knows how many hours, and she's like, I'd rather do that than fly. And I tried to like even offer to help her buy a plane ticket. I was like, Madison, you got to fly, and she's like, I'm not doing it. So I guess she loves to drive. I'm just saying. But anyway, so I appreciate you guys coordinating everything. And when we're in Olean, you'll get to tour the factory and smell the super shears for those of you who were there on Saturday. But also we'll get to take some team selfies together in a really fun environment. So I'm pumped and looking forward to that. What I would like to ask, please, specifically for those of you who were there, so Carissa and Madison and Kevin and Nick specifically, would you guys mind sharing just one or two of things that were either highlights for you or things that stood out or biggest takeaways from the event? I'd appreciate anything that you guys share and contribute.
Okay, so I'm going to go first.
Yeah, go. Okay. Hang on one sec, Madison. Let me just turn up the volume a little bit. Or a lot. All right, go ahead.
So the list where it was like the what, why, and how, and then how we did personal leadership in Olean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could use that outside of Vector.
Yeah.
And just like so we can apply things that we learned to our lives more, because the how part, that was like you hear things, but if you don't pay attention to how you're going to actually fix something, then it just goes in one ear and out the other. So making that list and like actually writing down those things, that was like a really big thing for me. And then the power hour, like actually doing it, it made me realize how much that I actually have to do. So yeah, so I think doing a power hour every Sunday would be very beneficial to people. So
yeah, I love that. By the way, I'm sure you guys have all heard this before, almost to the point of being a cliche, that a goal without a plan is just a dream. And so figuring out like, what do I want to do? And then the how is how you make the plan. So I love that. And then, yeah, it's on my agenda, and I'll probably still do it anyway, but on our syllabus for Leadership Academy, teaching you guys how to power hour was 2 weeks away. So now I got to re-strategize and see if maybe in 2 weeks, that'll be a good time to revisit that. Maybe we'll push it back. Either way, there was a really I also wanted to share with you guys. So we'll coordinate that for sure.
I'm the same way, dude. And after I'm like,
man. So Charlie, if you don't mind muting, I'd appreciate
yeah,
it.
it's just not like I'm gonna go upstairs and try to tell you my stomach's gonna hurt for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, put it in an envelope and I ship it out. And I was just like, this is so cool. Information products became like the thing.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute Charlie and failed. Yeah, it's not. Anyway, Madison or Kevin or Nick, would you guys mind sharing either a highlight thing that you took away? something that resonated with you?
I guess I'll go next. When they say you don't need more motivation, you need more commitment. I guess that is true, because the things I'm committed to, I never really skip out on, versus the things I'm motivated for. I mean, I do more passionately. However, like if I don't have motivation that day, I'm probably not as likely as if I were to be committed to it to do it that day. So
Yeah. By the way, that was a nugget from the #1 district manager in the company right now, that you don't need more motivation, you just need more commitment. So love that. That pulled on my heartstrings and called into light a couple of truths when I heard it too. So I'm with you. Mr. Kevin or Miss Love?
I'll go next. So when David was talking, he was talking about optimizing your social media. I definitely do agree with that, because if you make your social media, if you have like a big following of people, you can sell them like a product. You can grow your brand. You can grow your district manager like office, get more interviews, applicants, whatever. The only thing that was like, I do agree with that. Grant Cardone says if your social media is not making you money, then you're probably doing something wrong. And
yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, the only thing that Courtney said, don't have like controversy like in South Coast, but
Yeah.
I disagree. Because if you
recruitment, that she's right.
Yeah, I mean, like,
now for selling, controversy sells. That is accurate.
Yeah.
But when you're recruiting, you actually want to be as vanilla and as basic as possible to recruit the largest audience, right? There's something to be said when you polarize people. There will be people that hate, but people that become fanatical about you.
Right.
That's good for sales. By the way, Kevin and I are having a marketing moment. Forgive me. That's really good for sales. But for recruitment, you just want to be, I love everybody. I'm basic. I'm a whatever, pumpkin spice latte. And then you get them in for the interview. Sorry. Someone appreciated that. Probably Madison. Yeah. Like weather turns cold. Pumpkin spice, everybody. Anyway, so it was better the first time. I'm sorry for everything. But yeah, for recruiting, you want to be super basic, appeal to everybody. So you have the largest pond to go fishing in.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then once you go fishing, then things change. And by the way, if you notice with me, in my interviews, I'm super basic. There's nothing controversial. But then last week I was telling you guys that saving for retirement is a scam. So,
Yeah.
There's a time and a place, but for social media recruiting, controversy free.
Okay. Makes sense.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate you. And by the way, I just ended up like stealing all of Kevin's thunder and talking over him. So I apologize, Mr. Garcia. But we introduced the Facebook Jumpstart program. And one of the things, and I'm sure for Will and Charlie and those watching the recording, I'm sure that this is going to be included in the assignments that we send. But we're starting to craft and put together a social media profile that's going to help you be a recruiter. And we're going to use those things to recruit people for the winter break. You're going to get a chance to recruit people from my office, build up a team under you, and those will be your practice people over winter break. And they'll also help you get credit for the trip that we take in January that will take and then when
Dude,
you are
it's like the weakest fucking.
Yeah, let's mute that person out just in time. Also, Charlie, can you get up, punch your roommate in the face, tell him to rinse his mouth out with soap, and then I'll have a conversation with him after this. I'm just kidding, but Charlie should.
I'm a move.
Very good. Anyway, we'll tell you more about that then. But this winter break, you'll get a chance to practice recruiting for my team and have a team under you that'll be your practice people that you're managing this summer, or this winter rather. And then next summer, when you have your own team, you'll be using the exact same deal to build your organization from the ground up, which is exciting. So that'll be a really, really fun one. And Kevin, thank you for sharing. And then Miss Love, what you got?
Well, I actually have a few things that I thought was just like pretty cool about everything that was said on Saturday. For starters, definitely I thought it was cool that for the month of October that Cutco actually has the breast cancer awareness. So a lot of the knives, a lot of the shears and everything are in pink, and they actually donate a lot of the money towards, the breast cancer awareness and everything. And I just thought it was cool because I have a few family members who have been impacted by breast cancer. So just showing that Cutco is so involved within the month of October in breast cancer, you know, is a huge impact within everybody. Because, I mean, like Kate said, there's a lot of people who we either know who may have been affected, family members, friends, whatever, and just, you know, more of a broad foundation for Cutco I thought was really important. And another thing was how Vector is like the 12th best company to work for. I thought that that was pretty cool because who else can say, hey, I work for a company and, you know, we're the 12th best company to like work for. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah.
I just thought that was like a cool fun fact. And
sure.
then lastly, I thought it was really important learning about pre-screening and the group interviews because, I mean, yeah, it's one thing doing pre-screening and interviews one-on-one, but I mean, like you said before, whenever you have to have a huge group, whether if it's one after the other, you have to take different obstacles and different scenarios, whether you're doing one person or whether you're doing 20 people at the same time. So, and not everybody can be there, so sometimes you have to FaceTime in and do all these different scenarios. So doing the practice portion of it during the meeting itself was really cool because like we each individually got notes on how we can improve doing one-on-one interviews and group interviews.
Yeah, beautiful. Good. I appreciate you sharing all that, Miss Love. That actually leads me to a good segue. My biggest takeaway, like I said, I think the group did great. I had a lot of fun with you guys. But when we were doing the drill for skill, I could tell immediately who has practiced this outside of Leadership Academy and who hasn't looked at it since we talked about it 4 weeks ago in Leadership Academy. And here's what I'll tell you. We've talked about it before, but just as a reminder, you should be practicing this stuff like a college class, right? We have our 90-minute meeting once a week, but a lot of the learning happens outside the classroom when you're doing homework. It is the same thing here. And I don't expect you guys to spend 2 hours for every 1 hour in the class, like whatever that is. I'm assuming that math still applies. Yeah, I'm not doing that. But I do need you to still practice your skill set, right? And we finished with the interview at this point. We've talked about how to give someone the job, the group interview, like it's all done. I will teach you guys phone interviews when we get to winter break, and they'll be more relevant at that point. But we are honestly moving into an entirely different section, and we will never come back and review the interview ever again, ever in Leadership Academy. We are past it. So if you get to a point, especially for those of you who are away at school and you come back over winter break and you're like, hey, I want to like practice being a manager and I want to run an interview. If you haven't looked at it since September, I guess you will have looked at it in October because of, right? But if you haven't looked at it since October and we're in December, it's going to be ugly and I won't rescue you, right? So I would just encourage you, and I can tell, by the way, Kevin, has the ability to physically be in the office, but he's been actually running real interviews. Nick, you could be doing that if you wanted. I know I've offered Carissa to do that, and obviously the nature of traveling from Towson to Annapolis, that's not the most convenient thing, but it is an option that's available, right? Another thing, though, is like Landon has been interviewing his girlfriend. He's also been interviewing one of his buddies at school who sold Cutco, so kind of gets it. Although he's not in management training, so I don't know how much he gets it, but probably at least some. I've also had students who just interview stuffed animals on their bed, right? Like, I'm not doing this on a real person. They're going to judge me. So they just interview stuffed animals, and it's cool. Either way, I would encourage you to make sure you're practicing the skills that you're learning, because the next big skill we're getting into is building a team using Facebook and personal recruits and being on the manager side of that versus the rep side that you guys were on this summer. So just FYI, right? We're sticking and moving, and you got to stay up to speed with your skills. That said, I appreciate you guys sharing, and I'm calling an audible for tonight. So last week we introduced the initial concept of recruiting and where we get applicants from and how to build a team. And we're going to get into, if you guys remember, we came up with a whole list of where recruits come from. We will be tackling between now and Olean each of the different areas. By the way, just FYI, up until the injury, obviously I wasn't able to do as much on campus because I was dead, or at least half dead much of the time. But now that I'm in the recovery process, Kevin and I have been doing a lot of work at AACC. And what's awesome is we've run a couple of events there, just like we talked about last Monday. And we had 3 consecutive days in a row where we had 9, 10, 11, 12 people. We had 18 people apply for the job just today. It was awesome. It was freaking awesome. So just like we were talking about last week, building a 5-star team, we took some of those actions we discussed, and it's getting an immediate payoff. It's not even oh yeah, I do this today and we get the results in a week. It's boom. Actually, we did this on Thursday, and Friday and Monday were 2 of our biggest interview days to date, which is freaking fire. So I'm going to teach you all that stuff. But for today, I wanted to call an audible, and I am going to ask you, actually, make sure that you're muted. You guys are right now, just so there's no feedback in the speaker. But I wanted to show you something I'm really excited about. I'm going to encourage you to take a little bit of notes here. So this gentleman is Russell Brunson. I'm a big believer that no one achieves peak performance without a coach. So even me, I joined a coaching group. I actually spent $3,000 for coaching with Russell. And then he offered a private coaching group where he's not really doing anything. It's just he gave us a 30-day challenge, right? And there's a saying that if you want to get stuff done, you need to have just barely not enough time, right? When you have too much time, the work expands to fill that time, right, Kevin?
Oh, yeah.
If you have too much time, the work expands to fill the time. What you really need is to have not quite enough time, because it forces you to bring urgency. So I actually spent $130 just for the privilege of joining a Facebook group. That was it. $130 for a Facebook group where we have a 30-day challenge, and every morning he has a video for us, and he tells us what the deal is, and he gives us an assignment to do. And I will confess, today was day 1. There was a pre-training last week. Today was day 1. I've already worked on this for an hour, and I'm about 25% of the way done. And I'm looking at this does he not realize I run a business? He realizes, he just doesn't care, which I'm all about. I'm for it. I'll be working on doing the other rest of it after we're done here tonight. Regardless, neither here nor there. This is him giving a message about his entrepreneurial journey. This, by the way, you guys might recognize him from COC. This is the guy that sold $3 million in 90 minutes. It's him. By the way, if you guys remember it at COC, we were ripping apart his public speaking skills, and I was like, he's a great dude. He's obviously successful, but he sucked. This is actually a pretty good public speaking message. He did much better this time around, in terms of the quality of his delivery, rather. Anyway, I wanted to share this with you. Quite honestly, in relation to being an entrepreneur or a business owner, he shares some of his struggles and some of the things he's been through. And none of you guys will be able to say, oh yeah, I've been through that too. But I think you will be able to say man, I can relate to that, right? He also shares some of his triumphs and some of his wins. And he also shares a couple of lessons that he learned along the way that as I was watching this, I was like, man, I needed to hear this. Jack needed to hear this. John needed to hear this. Kevin needed to hear that. I made a list and I was like, everybody needed to hear this. So what I'm going to do is play part of the message, not 100%, but I'm going to play part of it. And I would encourage you, don't feel like you need to take notes or script it out. That's not what it's about. But if you get something where you're like, man, that's a light bulb or something, I would encourage you to take a few notes so you don't forget and lose it. I'll let this run for a little bit. And then I have an exercise for us to do at the end. Cool?
Yeah.
And I'm going to put the computer up near the TV. So for you guys, my camera's going to look not that interesting, but it's so that the audio comes through clearly for you guys. Don't buffer. I was
trying to figure out how that whole thing worked, and that's why I started bumping into people like Yannick Silver and on all these different internet marketing gurus and watching what they were doing selling information products, and I was just hooked to that point. And about that time, I started watching what they were doing, started learning, and I started creating different things that my flashlight's still on. Sorry about that. And I started creating things. In fact, one of my very first products ever. Does anybody in this room remember the product Zip Brander? Yeah, like 3 people. VJ does. So I had all these info products, and I was buying resale rights, other people's products. And I was selling these things, and I remember I was like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a way where when I sent this file, this digital file to somebody, it's like when they first open it, instead of just getting the file, they would see an ad for my product, and then they see the file. And I was like, that was my first like light bulb. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, it's like zipping a file, but you'd zip it and they'd be branded. So they open it, they see your ad first. I was like, this is I thought it was it. Like, that is my idea. This is going to change the world as we know it, right? And so I bought zipbrander.com. And I remember Armin Morin at the time was one of the guys I was studying. And like, I was just like, Armin is so cool. Like, every one of his sites looked very similar. They were so cool. And I'm looking, and like Armin's site, he had a big header graphic with his picture, like his arm folded with a suit coat on. I was like, oh, dude, that's what I need. So I got a picture of me like folding my arms in a suit coat. And he had this header, and so that header looked just like his. His was always like e-cover generator. And so I was like, ZipBrand looked like identical. And then this is where like my funnel hacking started. So he had this big long sales letter. I'm like, that looks weird, but Armin's doing it, so I'm going to do it. So like, I looked at his sales letter. I wrote my own based on that. And then I was like, how do I create this? I didn't know that. And so my first thought is like, oh, well, I should just become a computer engineer. Like, that'd be the coolest thing. Like, I want to make software.
By the way, I know we started in the middle of the story, so I'm just going to give you the first thing I want to make sure you take away from this. He's talking about getting started in business, and he was like, man, like, I want to make a lot of money. I want to be a millionaire, right? He's like, how do I do it? So he found someone who is doing something successfully. And there's a saying, I think Tony Robbins is the one that says this, but it could be someone else. But there's a saying that success leaves clues. There are patterns if you study successful people. So he said he found someone successful, and he's like, they're doing this, I did that. They did this, I did that, right? So that was the first thing I want to make sure you guys take away, is that he had a dream. He latched on to someone who was already moving in the direction that he wanted to move, and started modeling what they were doing.
So I switched my major to like computer information systems so I could learn how to code, right? It was about the time the semester was changing. So I get to class the first day, and teacher gets up there and starts talking about code and like databases and all these things, structures. And I was sitting there like, oh crap. Like, I have no idea what he's talking about, like not even a little bit. And within about 15 seconds, I realized that I'm not a coder and never will be a coder. Couldn't even understand. I thought like I was a Spanish class or something. And I'm just like, I don't even know what he's saying. But I didn't know how to change my major again. And I kind of was, so I just kind of stayed in it. And in a little while, I kind of got depressed. So I'm like, well, that was my one idea. Like, I guess I can't do it. And then I remember I was listening to a teleseminar. I was on a wrestling tournament. We were driving to California. It was like a 16-hour drive. I downloaded on it was pre-iPods. It was like this little tape player thing, a whole bunch of teleseminars Armin had done. And I'm listening to these things in the back of the car where all the other wrestlers are like partying and having fun and like listening to music. And I was listening to these seminars, and they were totally making fun of me the whole thing. If you meet any of the wrestling buddies, like they relentlessly made fun of me the entire trip. Like, you're such a nerd. Like, you're never gonna make any money. I'm like, oh, I swear I will. So I'm listening to these things the whole way. And in one of these things, like 22 hours into this thing I'm listening to, Armin says like, yeah, I don't code software. I go to this, at the time it was called Scriptlands. I go to Scriptlands and I pay guys in Romania and India really like hardly anything to build stuff. And I was like, Armin's not a programmer? I thought he was a programmer. There are people in India that can do this? So I went to, like, literally that night, jump on Scriptlands and actually prior to that, I tried to hire a company to do it, and they quoted me like $5,000. I was like, okay, well, I don't have that. And so I took the same description I'd given these guys, and I posted it on Scriptlands, and instantly I got all these people started bidding on it. One guy was like, I'll do it for $5,000, I'll do it for $2,000, for $1,000, for $500, and it came down all the way down to this guy named Cyprian in Romania said, I'll do it for $20. I was like, I got $20. So I picked him, and he's like, all right, so this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but just do it. So he did, like, spent like 2 or 3 days, sends it back. He's like, here it is. So I tried it, and I like zipped a file, and I opened it, and my ad showed up. I was like, you did it. Oh my gosh. And he's like, yeah, thanks for $20. I was like, no, you like, this is going to be huge. Like, I'm going to make millions of dollars. I feel guilty giving you $20. Can I pay you an extra $100? He was like, yeah. So I gave him $100, and I felt good about it. And that was my very first software product I ever did. And it didn't make me millions. I probably made, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 grand with that product. It was the first one I had a sales letter, started driving traffic. I was doing Google ads. I was finding JV product, all these things. I started selling it. And that was like the first thing that actually made me any money. Is that exciting? How many of you guys want ZipBrander? The first 30 people in the back? Just kidding. No. Okay. It doesn't work anymore. The coding all stopped working like 10 internets ago, so it's done. But that was my first software product. It was so cool. About that time is when I started learning more about info products. That's when the Potato Gun came out, Potato Gun DVD, all these things. I was just doing all these little businesses, and none of them were like huge, smashing, like $1 million successes. I didn't pull Dan Henry and read a book and 5 months later made $1 million. Like I was like, hey, I made $5,000 here. Oh, I made $200 here. And these little things kept happening. It was so cool. And every project did a little bit better. It was like kind of this like slow momentum. Like everyone did a little bit better than the last one because I got more customers were coming in and more people. And I kept just making things in different markets, potato guns and all these sorts of different things. And each one got a little bit better, and it was just fun. And I remember back then I started doing teleseminars, and I was like, I get like 30 people online, and I talk about something, and I'd sell it at the end, and some people would go buy it. It was so exciting. And that was like the start of this whole thing for me. And then one of my friends, BJ, who's sitting over here, he was a wrestler in Nebraska, and I wrestled at Boise State. It was our senior year. And my senior year, I'd made pretty good money, probably $150,000, $200,000, somewhere in there my senior year. And he'd heard about it. And so Boise State was wrestling Nebraska, and we're sitting there wrestling, and we're glaring at each other because we're opposite teams. And afterwards, he's like, hey, man, so someone told me you're making money. Is that true? And I was like, yeah. He's like, how you doing it? How you doing it? And so we kind of talked about it a little bit. And then, we flew back to our places, figuring out college. And we kind of talked back and forth for a little while. And then after college got in, he's like, hey, man, I want to do what you're doing. Can I get a job? And I was like, you want a job? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what would you do all day? He's like, I don't know. I'll do what you're doing. I'm like, okay. And can we talk about marketing stuff? He's like, oh, I love talking about it. I'm like, that feels so cool. I have nobody to talk about this stuff. Like, I thought it was just me. I was like, so you're actually interested in this thing? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah, man, I'll give you a job. So come on out. So he's like, all right. So he jumps in the plane, flies to Boise, and moves like literally into our office, slept in our office for like 6 months. And he gets there and he's like, okay, so how does this work? I'd never really had an employee before. I'm like, I don't really know either. I'll pay you, and we can talk about marketing, then we'll sell stuff, and it'll be awesome. Me as an entrepreneur, I was in this mode of like, eat what you kill. Like I'd sell something, make a bunch of money, and I was like, sweet. And then we wouldn't do anything for like 4 or 5 months, and we create something, sell it, make a bunch of money, and then that's kind of the model that I was on for a long time, right? And then BJ came in, he wanted to be an employee, and I was like so excited. I'm like, sure. And so he's an employee, and then the weirdest thing happened is every 2 weeks he wanted to get paid, whether we made money or not. Like I'd never heard that, but I was like, oh, okay, so here's some more money. And then 2 weeks later, more money. I'm like, oh crap, we haven't sold anything for like a long time. And so then, and then he had some other friends that came along that were like, this is cool, I want to work for you too. I'm like, all right, come on over, man, let's get jobs. So I gave them jobs, one of his buddies and his wife, and then some other people. And so I was like, I got all these friends that want to talk about marketing with me. This is so fun. And so we had all these people coming over. And then, but the problem was that like every 2 weeks they wanted to get paid. And so, but we weren't selling anything. So I'd go lock myself in the back room. And I'm like, don't bug me, you guys. I got to make money so we can all hang out again. So I closed the door and I started working, and I'd be working, and I'd be selling stuff. And then they'd be out there like, dude, can we help you? I'm like, shut up. Like, if you talk to me, I can't make money to pay you. So just like, go away. And they're like, we really feel bad. Like, we want to help you, Russell. I'm like, I don't have time to train you because otherwise we can't make money to pay payroll. And so they just kind of, and that was like this thing. And what's interesting is this is one of my first lessons as an entrepreneur, that it was tough, right? And so I don't remember, I had 5 or 6 people at the time. We hired this video guy that was, there's so many side stories. I can't tell you all of them. He was an Indian guy who had shorts went up to here, and he had a braid that went past his shorts. Because he told me in the interview, he's like, yeah, I'm a video guy. I'm like, you can't even really do videos. And he's like, yeah, I got all sorts of video stuff. So we hired him, and then turned out he didn't know anything about video at all. And but I didn't dare to fire him because I'd never fired anyone. I was so scared. And like every day we're like, I wish like he'd just quit. But I don't know what to fire him. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, oh, it was just all these weird learning things, right? And so this went on for a while. I was launching something like every week, trying to make money to cover payroll, and it's just this huge thing. And it became like horribly not fun for a long time. And it kept going worse and worse and worse until the point where it was December. It was the beginning of December. It was freezing cold. And I was looking at everything, and like every penny I'd ever made was gone. Every idea I had for like how I could hustle and like sell things to different markets like was gone. And I was just like, just drained. Like, I don't know what to do. And it was Christmas time. I was outside, and I started going to go hang up lights around my house. And I had this someone had sent me like an iPod Nano, and Stu McLaren had actually done an event. I don't know if Stu even knows this. And he had sent me the links to it. So I downloaded the links to this event on this iPod, plug into my ears, and I started like hanging up Christmas lights, which I had never done before. It's a horrible job. Turns out you can hire people for really cheap to do that. And the lights look really straight. Mine were like it was really bad. And I kept stapling through the wire, which would then kill the lights. And it was bad. And my fingers were so numb. I had this little light coat on. I remember like, God, my fingers were so numb. And I had to have my gloves off to be able to like squeeze the thing. And so like I put them back in and get warm. And then I go back in. And And I didn't really want to go inside and get warm because I was so depressed because I knew that, like the next payroll was coming up in like a week or so. And I was like, I don't have money. Like, I don't know what to do. And like tomorrow I need to go in and tell these guys. Otherwise they're going to like, it's going to be really awkward when, payroll does come. And I'm like, oh, sorry guys. So I'm like, tomorrow I have to go tell everybody this. And so I stayed outside in the cold because I didn't want to go in. And I just was trying to think. And so I'm stapling these Christmas lights around the house. So I'm listening to this audio. And in the audio, there's two different speakers talking about different business models. Back then, none of us called these things funnels, but they talked about these different business models, what they were doing. And one of them was an offline guy. His name is John Allness. Some of you guys have heard me talk about him. He's the guy talking about attractive character. And he said, he's like, I have this thing that I've been doing where I create these CDs and then I tell everyone it's so controversial that I can't put it on the internet, which is the funniest thing ever. It's like, so because of that, you got to pay me $5, then I will ship you the CD. And he said, what happens is that I ship them the CD, but then that customer financed me sending them a sales letter. I was like, dude, that is like brilliant. I'm like, we got to do that. And I remember I'd filmed the CD like 2 years earlier, or DVD. And I was like, we could do that. We could burn that DVD and we could start sending that out. So that was the first presentation was John Allens's. The next presentation was this guy named Matt Basak, who's become a close friend since then. And Matt was talking about his business model. He said, what I do is I send out CDs, and the people that buy these CDs, I call them on the phone, and we sell them coaching. I was like, you can call people on the phone? Like I'm an internet nerd, and I'm like, wait, you people, like, and I was super scared, but I knew that there was a guy that worked for me at the time, one of those, my 5 or 6 friends who had sold things on the phone before. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if we figured out something we could do where we could like save this thing? Like it might actually be possible. And I started getting more excited. I'm hanging Christmas lights. I'm listening to stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this plan, this like funnel was going through my head. And I'm like, okay, I think I figured out like a blend of what these two guys are saying could actually work. And so by the time I got to hang up Christmas lights, I texted all of them like, you guys, you don't know this yet, but we're about to go bankrupt, but I got an idea that I think can save it. Let's meet tomorrow morning early. I'm going to walk you through what I think could actually save this business. Send. And they're all like texting back like, what? Like, I know we're going through bankruptcy. Like, oh yeah, we're about to. And luckily, it's okay, let's all come in. So they all came in the next day. And I was like, guys, I think I got a model. This is what we're going to do. I was like, remember that DVD I did like 2 years ago? We're going to take that. It's going to be a free DVD. It's going to be so controversial, it can't sell on the internet. We'll charge, I think it was $4.95 shipping and handling. And we'll send this DVD out to them. And then inside the DVD, we're going to have a sales letter where we're going to sell a $5,000, actually it was $5,500. I don't know why we said that price. It's $5,500. And they're like, cool. What do we sell $5,500? I'm like, I don't know. What do you guys want to sell? All right. So then we had our whiteboard. On our whiteboard, we're like, well, if someone's giving us $5,500, like we'd have to be something amazing. Like, what if we did this? And we're like, we listed out, what if we did that? And we made this huge list for like 2 hours of like all the amazingness. And I was like, that would be awesome. But I'm not willing to do half of that stuff. So, okay, we're not going to have them sleep in my house. We're not going to have them do it. And we kind of crossed out all these things, right? Okay. And we're like, okay, I'd actually be willing to sell this. I think people would actually buy that. Like, that would be insane. And so we took that. And then at the same time, we added a newsletter. So if somebody bought a CD, they joined a newsletter that was $37 a month. So they came from here and they joined a newsletter. It's $37 a month. And that was the funnel. But back then we didn't have ClickFunnels, so luckily we had 1 or 2 nerds still working for us who were able to kind of put these pieces together. And we had this really rudimentary, like horrible looking funnel, but it was live within a day. And we said, okay, let's try it. And at the time I had a little tiny email list. This is pre-Facebook, it was back MySpace days. So back then we pushed some traffic to this, and we ended up selling a couple hundred of these CDs. And then in the CD, we shipped out to them. Inside there came a sales letter talking about this. And then it put people on a continuity program. And then we called everybody about the CD and said, hey, you bought the CD. How would you like to come to Boise? And we're going to give you this. And this was our Hail Mary pass. Like, please let this work. And so we did that. We focused on it. We drove traffic to it. And when all was said and done, over the next like 2-week period of time, we got 800 people to get our free CD. From that, the way we used to do it is everybody was on continuity. So we had 800 people that were on this $37 a month continuity, but it was free for a month, so we didn't make any money here. But we had 800 people's phone numbers we were able to call. And so we started calling them. And we didn't know anything about phone sales or anything. We were just like, hey man, you bought a CD, you want to come and hang out with Russell? They're like, yeah. And in that 2-week period of time, we sold 10 people at $5,500 a piece, which ended up being $55K. And that funnel saved Christmas. Is that awesome? It's awesome. was able to pay all of our payroll. We had some money left over. It was awesome. And the coolest thing is 30 days later, then this started, and all these people were on continuity, and suddenly we had a business. This is when I learned the power of continuity. David Fry, who's one of my favorite people in the whole world, he's in the audience here somewhere, I think. He used to always say, he's like, until you have continuity, you don't have a business. And I never understood that till this. There's David smiling over there. I love that guy. And now I found out how suddenly I had these people. And then so what happened, I don't know the math, 800 times 37 a month. It's like $25K a month. And we knew, like, we have continuity now. Every single month we have $25K. That means I can pay for employees. I realized, like, you don't hire employees before you have continuity. But now we have continuity. Now we actually had people covered, and we could actually focus and think. And that was the first funnel that really kind of saved things and turned it around for us. Now, the pros and the cons of this. The pros is this was really, really awesome. And I was like, as getting a good entrepreneur, I'm like, hey, what's the book? Nail it and scale it. Like, we nailed it, right? Okay, let's scale this thing. And so then I probably shouldn't have done some of this stuff, but we got excited. I was like, well, if this worked here, we should hire more people. And we started growing this. We went from this little thing with 5 or 6 of us to 2 years later, we had about 100 people operation, where this is the model we were doing. CDs, calling them on the phone, selling coaching, having continuity, and it grew really, really big. And during that time, there were some really positive things that came from it, some negative things, some ups and some downs. I'll share kind of a lot of those things. One cool thing is that while this was happening, and it was going really well, my name kind of got out there, so I got a chance to go speak a lot, which was cool. And I'd seen other people speaking from stage. And this is where I've told you guys a story. Anyone who's gone through Perfect Webinar, like, I spent about 2.5, 3 years on the road, going to seminars, standing for a bunch of people like this, talking and trying to sell something, and then nothing happening. It's a really horrible feeling. Anyone ever done that before? My first presentation, I was on stage. I just probably had 300 people in the room. I did a presentation. I tried to, like, do what speakers do and, like, close, and then hopefully everyone runs to the back, and, like, nobody budged. And then the guy forgot to turn the music on, and it was just like crickets. And then I was just like awkwardly, like, walking off the stage. Oh, this is awkward. And then running, you know. And then I remember the first, I was so embarrassed because usually, like, we have, like, those events where all, like, multi-speaker events, and all the speakers are selling, and everyone's bragging about their numbers. And I knew that I don't want them to ask me my numbers, because I totally didn't, like, not one person signed up. So I went and hid in my hotel room. And I remember ordering coconut shrimp and Haagen-Dazs ice cream for every meal for the next 2 days while I hid in the room, eating it, watching movies. So I'm like, I'm not going back downstairs. And it was really bad and awesome at the same time. Coconut shrimp and Haagen-Dazs is awesome. But I did that, and I learned, like, how not to sell. And then I started learning from some amazing speakers and people, and I started learning the process, how it works. And all the stuff we talked about in the Perfect Webinar, all this stuff we talked about day one about creating belief and breaking belief pattern, all those kind of things I learned, like, on the road in front of people on stage. Like, it was scary, but it's such a good time for me to learn it and understand that part of the process. As we started to grow, make sure I cover all the cool things, we had a bunch of different offers we came out with. One of the ones that was more successful for us was a front-end offer like this called micro continuity. How many of you guys remember micro continuity? Yeah, that is awesome. So this is one it's probably, I don't know, 8 years ago now. We put it on an MP3 player from Hong Kong. It had like 6 hours of this training, and that was a funnel we put through. And we just kept creating new front-end funnels to get people into this program, and it worked awesome. And we grew the company from nothing to $3 or $4 million a year, and it was doing awesome. And then at a time, I started looking at other people in my industry. And this is hopefully will help. One of you guys is going to get a good idea for this one. But I had this funnel. We talked about the value ladder, right? Like, I had this really cool value ladder happening here. And I was setting people up, and I realized that I was the only person in the market that had a real value ladder. Everyone else was kind of doing stuff down here, and that was it. And I was the only person selling really expensive stuff. I started calling my friends. I called like Mike Filson. I'm like, hey man, like, so all of our customers, we call them, we sell like these $5,000 things, and lots of people buy that. Like, you should do that. He's like, I don't want a call center. And I'm like, well, do you want us to call your customers and sell it? He's like, yeah. So we hooked up with Mike, and we became Mike's backend. I call it Frank Kern. Same thing. We became Frank Kern's backend for a little while. We started calling it a whole bunch of people, and then we started becoming the backend. So all these people now had front-end funnels. We became the backend for a lot of them. And that's how we took the company from $3 or $4 million to $10 million. And it became really, really big. And I was going to say big and fun, but I don't think I would say that at all. It became really, really big. We had 100 employees, and we had 60 people on phones in a big, huge call center. We had 20 people doing coaching for all the things we were selling. And then we had about 20 people who were driving leads and customers and stuff like that. And it got really big. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like, I'm really good at like selling and those things, really bad at like the management of stuff. And I was not good at managing all these people. And it kind of started just getting too big. And this is about the time that I was telling you guys, if you've read the .com Secrets book, that I started waking up and I was just like, God, I did not like what I created. I got so excited that I started building this thing. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I really want to do this? I think half of the conversations I have with inner circle members when they first come in is this, like, do you really want to build that business? Like, yes, that would work. But sometimes it's horrible when you get there. Like thinking through, like, what do I actually want to do? What do I really want to become? Who do I want to be when I grow up? And luckily during that time, it was probably one of the most painful times of my life. But looking back now, it was probably one of the most important times of my life. We had this huge operation. Everything was working. And then one day, it was in January, literally 11:30 in the morning, one of my sales guys came in and said, hey, I'm trying to run a credit card, but it's not working. I'm not sure what's wrong. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Well, try one of the other merchant accounts. Maybe there's something there. And then someone else came in, hey, all the continuity orders are failing. I'm not sure why. And then the 3 or 4 people came to me. I'm like, what's happening? I logged in the back end system and like 11:37 or something like that. Every sale stopped, just stopped. No sales. I was like, what is happening? And so I'm kind of freaking out. So I call our merchant account company. There's a busy signal. I'm calling again, busy, calling and busy. And like, I can't get hold of anybody. All of a sudden I start hearing from friends like, dude, everything got shut down. Like, are you still able to process? I'm like, no, like what's happening? And everyone started, I don't know. And soon I found out that it wasn't me. It was like, I eventually found it was like 300 or 400 people at the same time. Anybody who was doing any kind of like continuity based stuff, the merchant accounts basically came in and said, look, we think that what you're doing might be illegal. And so we're shutting all of you guys down and you're basically guilty till proven innocent. I was like, what? I've got 100 people I'm feeding, 100 people and their families. Like it turns into like hundreds of people. I was like, you can't stop processing. Finally, after like an hour, I get through to somebody and the lady on the phone says, yep, we shut you down. Good luck ever getting a merchant account again. I got to go. Boom, and hung up on me. I was like, what? And at the time I thought I had diversity. Like we had 9 merchant accounts all through one company. And so I thought that meant, but they were all through different merchant accounts, but all through one bank. And I found out that's the equivalent of having one, which is why I'm a big believer now in having multiple merchant accounts in multiple different banks, which is the lesson hopefully for everybody. If you don't know Alex Roy yet, I don't know if Alex is in here, but meet Alex and he's the man who can get you hooked up with lots of merchant accounts. Like he's done that for us. Yes, he's amazing. But it was bad. And so finally got a hold of these guys and I'm trying to figure some things out and basically said, okay, well, you got to prove that you are a good guy. I was like, okay, so we went through, it took us 2 weeks for them to go through all our stuff, look at our documentation, look at all our stuff. It's 2 weeks and they came back and said, okay, you're right. You're doing everything clean. Everything's above board. We'll turn your merchant accounts back on and you're good to go. I'm like, sweet. So we turned back on. And at that time, like when there's that kind of instability, like sales guys are freaking out. They can't handle any kind of instability. They're leaving like crazy, people walking out the door. And it was like, and I was like freaking out and we had all this payroll, but no money coming in. And so like I'm paying it out of my own pocket, like everything just like keep things afloat. And as I'm going through this process, like it's getting scarier and scarier. And finally, it's like, hey, merch accounts are back on. You're a good guy. I'm like, sweet. So hey guys, we got to do a launch really quick to make a bunch of money. So we do this, put together this huge launch thing. We push it out to our customer list, and in a weekend we made $250,000. And I was like, thank you, so great. I was like, Monday we should get the money. We can pay payroll. I'm telling everyone like, just tell your wives and your kids we'll have money soon. Like it's coming, I promise. Like it's in the bank. It's just going to be here any day now. And Monday didn't come. Monday didn't come. Tuesday didn't come. Wednesday didn't come. By Thursday, I'm like calling, like where's our money, dude? Like we need this money. And then the guy looks at the account. Oh, it's definitely in there. I'm like, okay, when's it coming to our bank? He's like, well, it's not going to come to your bank. I'm like, well, why not? He said, oh, well, you're on 100% reserve, so we keep 100% of your money. I was like, dude, what? Like, that's not good for me or for anybody. How am I supposed to be in business? I got people to pay. He's like, yeah, well, that's just how it works. He's like, but the good news is that it looks like you are a legitimate company. No one's charging back or refunding this money we've collected so far. So what we'll do is we'll drop you down to 10% reserve. I'm like, oh, thank heavens. And they said, but the $250,000 you collected last week, we're keeping that for the next 6 months just as collateral, make sure nothing bad happens. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, so I'm like, okay, okay, another funnel, quick. So we're putting that other thing, push it out there, make some money, and we start, paying payroll for whatever we can, but like everything's collapsing around me. And so that started in January, and that started happening. At the same time, we're trying to find other merchant accounts, other banks, and all these other banks are like, oh yeah, we're cool, come in, we'll give you a merchant account. And they're like, okay, this is how it works. Like you gotta make $100,000 a month. I'm like, cool. Okay, we're gonna do that in like 2 days. So I need like 4 merchant accounts because this is like we can make money. We just need you to be able to like give it to us after we make it. And like, oh yeah, we're cool. We're good at that. Don't worry. So like, okay, cool. So we get a merchant account, get all set up, drove a bunch of traffic. And twice we made over the $100,000 a month we were allowed within like a day and a half. And then they froze our accounts and they said, oh, you made too much money too fast. We're freezing your accounts. We'll get this money back to you in 6 months. I'm like, 6 months? Like, please stop doing this to me. Like, we ended up like $400,000 or $500,000 locked in the merchant accounts, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So this whole year was like the hardest year of my life. And it just kept going down. And like every single day I'm like laying off friends and family members and people whose families I love, like people that I just love and I care about. And I'm coming in, I'm like, I don't know what to do, man. I'm so sorry. Like, I gotta let you go. And it's and it was just, like such a dark time in my life, and just over thing after thing after thing. And I wish that I could say from there it got better. So that was the entire year. The next January started, and one of our friends was doing an event in Vegas, and I was like, I'm gonna go out there and just see what everybody, like, I gotta refigure out my whole business. Like, everything's completely collapsed. At the time, by the way, we were in this big, huge office we had rented, and that we were leasing. And I think it was like 20,000 square feet because we had all the call center and stuff. And I went to the landlord. I'm like, hey man, like I can't afford to pay you anymore. And he's like, okay, well, we've got a 3-year contract. If you don't pay me, I'm going to sue you, and you're probably going to end up in jail. It's like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, I'm trying. Like, would not work with me at all. I had all this fear behind that. So I'm in Vegas a year later, trying to ask friends, like, what's happening? Like, what are you guys doing in your business? And they're trying to tell me their stories. I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then that night I got an email on my phone from my dad. I opened this email. It was like a shot in the gut, like probably the worst second of my life as I read that. And the email said, hey, Russell, I'm so sorry. My dad was helping the books at the time, but we had a bookkeeper in the office. He said, and the bookkeeper, I mean, she was trying her best, but she didn't know. She knew we were struggling, and she didn't want to stress me out, so she didn't tell me how much we were struggling. And turns out what she'd been doing is she had been paying the bills she could, and the ones she couldn't, she was trying to like not pay him and delay him. And to hide it from my dad and from everybody else, she was saying in QuickBooks that she paid bills, but then like not actually paying them. So it looked like it was clear. And he'd gone through and actually audited and found out that she hadn't paid payroll taxes in almost a year. And the email my dad said, hey, just payroll taxes aren't like something where they fine you. Like if you don't pay payroll taxes, you're gonna go to jail. By the way, and it was over $150,000 owed payroll taxes. And I was like, at the end, it had been an entire year. Every penny I'd ever earned was gone. All my people, my teams, like it just had all fallen apart. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what to do. And so the next morning, I got on a flight from Vegas back to Boise. We fly back to Boise. I get to Boise and I walk in, and the call center's empty. All the guys are gone. And there are 2 people that are left. And they said, hey, just, the call center across the road just recruited us, and we all just left and we're out. See ya. And they walked out. I was like, oh, I owe the government $150,000. I have nobody to help me sell. Like, like, I don't know what to do. And I want to quit. Like, so bad I want to quit. But if I quit, I go to jail. I'd also sold a lot of coaching to people I cared about. If I quit, all these people that bought coaching from me, like, I can't help them. That's not right. That's not the right thing to do. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I went to a bankruptcy lawyer. I'm like, how's this work, man? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I gotta figure this out. And he's like, well, I explained the whole process. And I told him about my lease. I'm like, yeah, the landlords that are coming after me, like the government's going to come after me. Like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, the best thing to do is I should come with you to your landlord, just explain you're going bankruptcy. Maybe they'll be nice to you. So I'm like, all right. He's like, do you have any money? I'm like, no. He's like, what do you got in your pocket? I was like, I like $100. He's like, cool, give me $100. I'll come and I'll tell the landlord you're going bankrupt. Like, all right, man, here you go. So he comes with me, which actually is the best $100 I ever spent. So he comes with me to the landlord, and he's like, Russell screwed, man. He's going through bankruptcy. He just hired me. He's like, he can't pay you. Like, you can come after him, but he is like, and the guy, it was like this old man. He's just like, yeah, he's done. Like, oh, so bad. Like, so much money. Government's coming after him. Like, oh, you're screwed. Don't even try it. And basically convinced our landlord that like it was a useless cause. So landlord was like, all right, be out by Friday. And we had a big space with office, cubicles, and phones, and all sorts of just craziness, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll be out by Friday. But 90% of my team was gone at this point, from 100 employees down to about 7 or 8. The few people that stuck by me, people like Brent Cole-Peters, who, like, just love that guy to death. He, Brent and John and some of the people back then, Brent had taken a pay cut, a 50% pay cut, and never It's amazing people. So the few of us who were left, we went and we packing up stuff. We put up ads on Craigslist. Like, we got tons of computers and crap, come and buy it. And things we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for, we were selling for hundreds of dollars. And just to get out of it, we made, I don't know, maybe $5 or $6 grand of all of our crap getting rid of. We had huge dumpsters just throwing away everything we'd ever created because we had to downsize, and trying to figure out how do we get it into a smaller building, and how do we keep the people we have to be able to fulfill on coaching, but we have to just cut everything else that we have. And so we were downsizing everything, going out, and the night we were moving, like that Friday, we were supposed to be out at midnight or whatever, whatever it was. I was sitting in the office and the desks were gone. Everything was gone. All I had left was my laptop. And I was sitting there. I remember I had my socks on. I had some Levi's and I had no money. And I was like, I have to make some money or else we can't even like move into it. I don't know how to do anything. And so I sent out an email to my list I had at the time. I had a bunch of people register for a webinar. And I was sitting there in a chair with my laptop on my lap, doing a webinar, praying that something would happen. And that webinar saved us. Like, that webinar we did made $150,000 in sales over the next 3 or 4 days from that webinar, which gave me the money I needed to pay everyone to like not leave, get a new office, get us moved in and get us like to stability so we could actually breathe for a few minutes and figure out, okay, what's the next step? Like, what do we want to be when we grow up? And so we downsized from 20,000 square feet to like 2,000 square feet. And we had this really cool moment where it was like, what do we want to do when we grow up? Like, what do we want to be? And as painful as that process was, like, it was one of the coolest things ever, because we didn't have to keep going on this path. We could pick anything. This is where I started thinking, like, who's our dream customer? Like, who do we really want to serve? Like, what fires us up? What gets us excited? And we started thinking through that. And during this process, like, we started just creating again and started having some fun. We're like, well, what should we do? I had a friend at the time who, he had this little website, was making him like $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and he got in some trouble. And I had a couple things making a little bit of money at the time, and he's like, I need to get rid of this site. Can you pay me some money? So I gave him $20,000. He gave me this little website, this little machine that you zap and gets rid of cold sores. And on autopilot, was making $2,000 or $3,000 a month. I was like, oh, this is so cool. So we had this little thing. I'm like, that little business just kind of runs. Like, what if we had another one? So we started creating another one. So we did one in the couponing market. We set it up. We got a guru in there and started running. And that started making money. And they're like, okay, what's another one? We did one in the weight loss and another. And then in a year period of time, we launched 12 different companies. Each were making different amounts of money. And during that time, we launched Neurocell, our supplement company. All these things were happening. And it was starting to get exciting again. Like, we were creating, we were like doing the business instead of teaching the business again, which was like so much fun for us to do and to learn and see, like, why does this stuff work in this market but not this market? One of the things that drive me crazy about teachers in my industry is that they come in and act like the marketing techniques that work in one space work everywhere. And I learned during that 2 or 3 year period of time that's not true. Like, everything's different. There's intricacies that are different in couponing versus business versus weight loss versus diet versus supplements. Like, there's differences, and I came to respect that because we had a chance to do it in so many different businesses and so many different things. And we spent the next 2 or 3 years creating stuff. And during that process, one of the really cool things is I used to go to flippa.com all the time and try to find like cool websites we could buy and like turn to businesses. And there's a website called championsound.com that was for sale. And it was this little like email text message autoresponder for bands. I was like, I'm going to buy that. And then we're going to take it and like niche it for every market. We'll make email autoresponders and text message autoresponders for dentists and for chiro. I was so excited. It was 20 grand. We didn't have that much money, but I was like, this is the future of our company. We have to do it. So we ended up buying this website from these guys off Flippa. We get the website and then try to transfer it over to our servers after we paid them the $20,000. And
I'm going to fast forward just a bit for time purposes. He tells more after things started looking up. He has more challenges. I'm going to let the last couple minutes run, and then I'll join back in with you guys.
Times it took us before the ClickFunnels funnel worked. And the 6th time was because one of my friends, Mike Filson, invited me out to his event. And he's like, hey, Russell, I want you to come and sell ClickFunnels. I think it's awesome. It's like, dude, Mike, nobody's buying ClickFunnels. Like, we got to figure out our next deal or figure out something because it's not working. He's like, no, dude, my people need it. You need to come speak on it. But you got to sell it for $1,000. Now, it's a free trial. Nobody even wants it. All right. And so Mike's event was happening that weekend. And I was literally sitting in my office watching the event streaming. As I was sitting there, I started writing my webinar. And I had my slides open. I was following the perfect webinar script that I had been working on for like 10 years. I started filling in the blanks, started making this webinar like true to the perfect webinar script. I literally was like watching it, adding the things in while I'm watching Mike's event happen. That day I finished the slides. Next morning, I jumped in a plane. I flew there. We got to California. I think it was California. The event was at. Got there, put the slides up on the thing. And I'm like, okay, so here we go. And I started it, and the title slide was my weirdness funnel is currently making $17,947 per day, talking about a NeuroCell funnel and how you can ethically knock it off in less than 10 minutes. Showed the first slide, started going through. And when we got to the end, we got to the stack and the close, we did it. And 30% of the room jumped up and ran to the back, jumping over the tables, fighting to get back there. I was like, we did it. That was the message. That was the key. Now I know how to sell ClickFunnels. We took that message, went back, and as a lot of you guys know, especially in the Circle members, starting webinars every single day, sometimes 2 a day. One time I did 3 in a day, which was really hard, over and over and over again. I did that webinar live over 70 times over the next year and a half, and went from being a startup with no members to year after the end of last year, over 10,000 members. After this year, we have over 30,000 members, and it's continued to grow and grow and grow. And it was that one funnel that changed everything for me. So this process for all of us, you guys, is an up and a down. Like it's always happening. And all of you guys are somewhere in this wave right now, right? Some of you guys are at the top riding it. Some of you guys are at the bottom in a crash. Some of you guys are somewhere in between, and it's always going up and down. But if nothing else, this event, like I wanted you guys to all understand that, like, no matter where you are, there's hope. Okay? It might not be this funnel. I can't tell you how many funnels flopped. I guarantee I have failed at more funnels than anybody else in this room because we tried over and over and over and over again. Because of that, we found out what worked. The only way to do that is to do it over and over and over again. And it's a lot easier now. I promise you, so much easier than what we used to do. And poor Todd and Dylan had a custom code every single thing, every single time. Like now you guys can test things really, really fast. First time I met Trey, first call, I said, Russell, I'm going to launch a funnel a week every single week. And I watched the CD launch a funnel and another funnel, another funnel, another funnel. And he had some marginal success, little success, more success, more success, more success. I saw him launch a funnel last year, one funnel, boom. And within 90 days, became the biggest selling funnel in the history of the world. I was talking to some of the guys at Affiliate Summit. They said there's never been a funnel that's made more money in a shorter period of time than one of Trey's funnels. I'm not privy to share all his numbers and his stats, but it was insane. And it came from him doing a funnel a day or funnel a week, until he hits the one that just explodes. You don't know what that's going to be. It's important. That's why this tool is so important, because you can do that. You can test, you can try over and over and over again. All right. Now I want to do something really quick before we break for the hackathon. So how many of you guys are excited about the new Expert Secrets book that's coming out?
Cool. I'm going to stop it there. And what he does at the end of every message he gives is he pitches on something he's very good at. $3 million in 90 minutes. Cool. Hey, I appreciate, I know that was long. Let me actually stop sharing my screen with me again. I know that was long, but I just want to share with you guys my thoughts as I was watching that. Number one, I realized after I started the video, and I apologize, there's a lot of like technical jargon that if you're not in that world, goes over your head. That's okay, right? You don't need to worry about funnel or any of the other like techno babble he was talking. That was industry specific, and obviously his industry is not ours, obviously, and that's okay. But I wanted to share some of my things that resonated with me that I hope you guys took away. Number one, I took notes. Number one is that concept of what do we want to be when we grow up, right? And this is, quite honestly, a lot of stuff I love about Vector. But one of the top ones is a lot of people have to go through this process where they hit rock bottom and everything is falling apart and everything is bad before they have the ability to step back and say, man, is this the life I want? What do I want to do? And then they define themselves. That, by the way, essentially is what a midlife crisis is. If someone's never hit rock bottom, they realize their life is more than half over, statistically. And then like, is this the life I want? And by the way, if they have a midlife crisis, the answer is no. What I love about Branch, and if you're not a student, District, is that it gives you that opportunity so much earlier in your life, so much sooner in your process, and without having to hit rock bottom first, where you get to experience so many unique things that most people don't when they're in their late teens and early 20s. And it really helps you accelerate that process. And I love that. And I hope that at the end of this coming summer, all of you guys are asking yourself, man, what do I want to be when I grow up? And for some of you, it might be to stay with us. For some of you, it might be like, I got what I needed. And now I'm going to pursue
the dream. But that's what it's all about. And that pulls at my heartstrings for sure. Number 2 is the concept of process. And, we talk about success leaves clues and model. In the book, The Millionaire Fast Lane, I forget how much of this I shared with you last week, but one of the things he talks about, and I've said this multiple times, and some of you guys are still skeptical. I hope seeing Russell share some of his numbers, you're like, oh shit, get rich quick is real. Get rich easy isn't, right? But he talks about the process that you have to go through. And one thing I love is that in Vector, some of his challenges you will literally never have to deal with, right? Like the payroll taxes thing or having a bad bookkeeper. Vector does that stuff for you, right? There's some things that you'll never have to go through, but you will have to go through your challenges. And all of you guys have and will continue to have different things that challenge you. But the process of overcoming the challenges is the thing that enables you to make your wealth. You can't have one without the other one. And so many people try to cut corners and avoid the hard stuff and the challenges, and they end up paycheck to paycheck. But going through your process is what enables you to get the success. And then the last thing is that Branch is a system, and one thing I love is as I watch him, again, his story and his path, I would never wish his challenges on anybody, certainly not myself. I wouldn't want to live them. But he does have a system, and he came up with these systems for success. And one of the things that's nice is he created, for internet marketers, he created an internet marketing system to help people avoid some of the stuff that he had to go through, right? It doesn't mean they're not going to have their own challenges, but they won't have to have his challenges, And Branch is exactly the same. But what I love is that his is super specific. Like if you're not going to be an internet marketer, his system isn't going to do much of anything for you. But Branch, it's a people business. It's a people system, and it helps you with whatever you're going to do. So I feel inspired and motivated listening to his story. It inspires me when I think about the challenges I've encountered, and I'm like, dude, I haven't gone through any of what he's gone through. I'll be all right, But at the same time, it really gets me fired up about what we do have here and gives me so much appreciation and gets me excited for you guys who are training to experience it for the first time. That said, I'm using too many words. I get fired up, and I hope that you guys enjoy that as well. If the answer is no, it's okay. But does anybody want to share takeaways or something that resonated with you from that?
I would like I like how he was talking about repeat customers, and I was like reading a book, and I can't remember what book it was, but the author was saying he's not in the selling business, he's in the reselling business, and it's the same with thing with Cutco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as soon as you sell something, that's great, but you're not in it to sell them once; you're in it to sell them more times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just getting repeat customers and continuity. That's when you have a business, right? And especially when you get to a point, and it takes a while. But when you get to a point where you have a big enough email list that you can just send out an email blast once a month and you'll sell several $1,000s just from an email, that's when you got a real, not a job, but you got a business, right? And you can all build that. Love that part. Anybody else? Again, if the answer is no, it's fine. But anybody else want to share something that resonated or that you took away from that? Actually, Landon, I'm gonna go back on my words. I would like you to share because I know you're a big fan of Tony Robbins, and I know that got you pumped. Would you mind sharing something that stood out for you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, word. I don't know. I just like the whole story. Like, I don't know, like him just going through all the struggles, and then just I don't know. He just kept persevering, man. He wouldn't stop. And I don't know, like what you said, not wishing that on anyone. That's a crazy story. Like all the internet stuff was going over my head, and I was like, I can't follow very well. But just the success part, I love. Just all of it, to be honest. And I want to. Can you send me that video whenever you get a chance? Because I want to watch that again so I can get better takeaways.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I completely agree. In many cases, again, don't wish that on anybody, but a lot of times the portion to which we are successful is directly correlated to the amount of challenge or adversity we had to overcome to get there. There's another book by Darren Hardy called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, where he says you can't control how successful you are. You can only control how hard you fail. And he said he chased after failure, and I'm not going to spend the next 20 minutes recapping that book. But he failed freaking hard, and in the process of failing hard, he was also the #1 producing sales rep in his company and ended up buying the company. But he was also the biggest failure. Something Russell said at the end. What did he say at the end? Is that he tried over and over. He's failed at more funnels than anybody else. You know, Michael Jackson says, I've missed more game-winning shots than anybody else. That is one of those things that success leaves clues, and there's a pattern to success. The people that are the most successful take the most shots and they fail the most, but they also have the most wins because they took the most shots, you know? It's success leaves clues. Anyway, we've only got about 12 minutes left, and I do have a couple of last things I want to do with you if you can pull out your notes for me. Quite frankly, I was hoping to be able to do this live with you guys tonight, but I can't. So this is something I do need all of you to do on your own before Thursday. Okay? I need you to finish your power hour. For those of you who were with us on Saturday, you started a power hour. I need you to finish it. For those of you who were not with us on Saturday, I need you to do a power hour, which is basically a planning session. Okay, you all have your syllabi for your classes. By the way, you also have the syllabus for Leadership Academy. If you lost it when I gave it to you, it was emailed to you, and it's also on the website, so you have access to it if you lost your physical copy. But I need you to go through, and for the next 3 weeks, because the Olean Push starts on Friday, for the next 3 weeks, I need you to put in all of your class times, put in your exams and your quizzes, and you know your teachers told you on the first day of class when all of that stuff is happening. So make sure it's all in there. Put in your personal stuff. Like if you're on a sports team, you probably know when all of your practices and games are, you know, through the end of the season, really. If you're on a sports team, you may not be set in stone, but you probably have a pretty good idea of when your workouts are and all that stuff. But plan out your schedule. And I'm not going to recap Courtney's talk, although it's one that's near and dear to my heart. I'm not going to recap it, but the planning really is the key. The planning unlocks your free time. It unlocks your schedule. It reduces your stress. There's so many advantages. Get it done. Again, I was hoping to get it done tonight, but after I saw this video, I was like, man, this is worth sharing with the team. So I gave the lion's share of our time tonight to Russell. But I need you to get that done. And I need you to figure out what you can do, or as Carissa mentioned, the how to do it, right? All of you guys already kind of planned out, at least from Saturday, what you want to do and why it matters to you for the Olean Push. Now you got to figure out the how, you know? I mentioned this before, but the first level of trip credit for the Olean Push is at $1,500. You have 3 weekends. So it could be one good sale or 3 $500 weekends or any combination therein. But sincerely, I want every single one of you guys on the next trip with us. Okay, I'll just tell you very openly, the trip, it's not a gimme. It's not like, oh, I showed up to work, so they're taking me somewhere tropical during the shittiest week of the year. Sorry, forgive my French. I was influenced by Charlie's roommates. But in all seriousness, it's not like a gimme, like, oh, I showed up to work, so they're going to take me somewhere. But it honestly is the easiest trip of the year to win. And for the past several years, we've brought more than 90% of our management candidates from this office. The whole DC Metro team generally does well, but from my office, 90+% of our team goes on the trip. And I really want to bring you guys there. Number one, it's hella fun. It's really cool. It's a signature experience, and I want you guys there. But you want to make it as easy on yourself as possible, all right? Especially if you want to hang out with your family over the holidays, and if you want to like not work 7 days a week over the holidays, and if you want to travel. I know a couple of you guys are already planning on travel, and just like we talked about in the summer, it's been a little while since I've had one of these conversations with any of you guys, but just like in the summer, it's like, hey, the yes and, can I do all of my stuff that I want to do and also, right, be a top performer and in this case win a trip? You know what I mean? And the easiest way to do that is to max out the early credit that you get. So I really want to see you guys do that because I want to take you and I want to have that experience with you guys, you know? So put together a plan, and I would encourage, whether it's reaching out to new customers. Some of you guys just need to like plug into the office, whether it's my office or something else. Some of you guys just need to do the email thing again with a little more urgency and scarcity, whatever it is, but come up with your plan. But I definitely want to see you guys sell 1,500 and get the credit, because man, I cannot describe to you, or I can't make you feel it until you have it, how much pressure it takes off. Even just $1,000 toward the trip makes a world of difference when we get to the actual time to get it. Does that make sense? And then also, I'll just share with you guys very openly, I don't need you to work for me, right? I'll be good no matter what. But for me, I get credit starting at $10,000. And then just like you guys, I have levels at 10, at 15, at 20, and at $30,000. And I get incremental credit toward the trip as well. And I want all of you guys to win the trip. And then I would also like to go with you on the trip. I'm just saying. So don't do it for me, do it for you. But I'm also just sharing that when we do it as a team together, we all get to go together. So you helping yourself win the trip does also help me in the process, and we go celebrate together. So again, don't do it for me, but I'd like to be there with you, just saying. I do want to do very quickly recognition of everybody. I don't have all the names and I don't have all the numbers, but a lot of you guys added to your startup over the weekend. I know Kevin added $1,000. I know Madison added 2,000. She was like, I just want to be set and good all the way until May. And I was like, I can get behind that. I know Becky added a couple hundred. I know Brandon opened up his savings account at the thing. There's more. I don't know everybody's numbers, but for everybody who added, well done. And also, I know some of you guys just made the simple step of already being signed up for Olean, but Charlie got his flight booked. Grant got his flight booked. Madison made a decision that she's going to drive, which I still think is insane, but I understand. She's like, I'm going to New Mexico, and I could either buy a flight to Olean or I could buy a flight to New Mexico. And I'm like, I get it. I still think driving that many hours is insane. Right, but just getting plans locked up. You guys did a lot of things right and a lot of things well. So again, I know I'm not giving all the specifics, and I'm sure there's stuff I missed, but I am very proud of what we put together on Saturday. And then just the final thing I want to share very quickly is when we do our laser calls, I appreciate you guys. Number one, you've been doing a great job of just signing up with me and then honoring the time. We've done really well with that as a team. The one thing I just want to put on your radar that I probably should have mentioned sooner is to have what I call a John list. Okay, Kate taught me this actually. I keep a Kate list, but since we only talk once a week or once every other week for the majority of us one-on-one, keep a running list of stuff that you want to make sure we talk about. I love just connecting with you guys, and a couple of times we get on the phone and it's like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And you're like, I got nothing. And it's like, all right, and we take like 20 minutes to talk to each other. I appreciate those calls. I love you guys as human beings. And also, by the way, you're allowed to call me anytime if you just want to talk. But the goal of the laser call is to do in 20 minutes what other people take an hour to get done. And the best way to do that is to have a hit list, right? So I would encourage you, just keep a running list. Sometimes you run into a challenge, and maybe it's a school challenge or a vector challenge or whatever, but you're like, man, I really want to use my laser call to talk about how to handle this or what the growth opportunity is from it. For some cases, it may be, hey, I want to do this, or like Carissa said earlier, right? I want to do this, but I don't know the how. I know the what, I know the why, lost on the how, and we can tackle that. Or whatever the case may be, whatever the case may be. For Kayla, actually, I'll just share, and I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this. Her goal is to get to $5,000 in startup by May 1st. She's at 688 right now. And for a variety of reasons, she, and it's all good, right? But she hasn't been selling recently. So she was asking, she's like, man, I've got this really big goal. And she's like, I know that I could do it over the winter break, but man, to try to like make $4,300 to save and pay my college tuition in 4 weeks in January. She goes, that's a lot. She goes, can you help me with the how? Right. So we spent our entire last conversation just tackling how do we get there and still, right? Yes. And get school done and get all the other stuff done. Right. So either way, those are the conversations I'd like to be having with you guys. So I would just encourage you, keep a running John list or have something that you want to tackle. And that's where we get the most value and where you'll feel like it was the time best spent. Cool. That said, it is 8:52. I want to honor your guys' time and not go over tonight. So I'm going to stop there. I am available if any of you guys want to stick around or have any questions. If not, I appreciate you. get your power hour done. And I will talk to you guys on our laser calls. And I will see you next Monday. Love you guys. Nice. Several people asked for the link to that video. So